Bonjour everyone and welcome back to Castellini, the French football podcast with the accent. Jeremy Magan, your host over here. Jeza, Chipres, those are the nicknames that I was given back in Australia. Thanks for coming once again. Of course, it's kind of Ep1 one of the post-season, right? The season was over now just about 10 days ago. And we've had just two more games of football since the playoff for promotion relegation. So we're going to quickly touch on that, and unfortunately we're going to talk about off the field stuff rather than on the field stuff when it comes to these two games. But also after that we're going to start the recap of the Ligue 1 season 21-22, and we are going to do it position by position. So the first episode of that postseason will be about goalkeepers. We will do that for the whole summer. Each episode, we're going to look at one position and the players that probably impressed us the most. Of course, goalkeeper is where there'll be the least choices, evidently. And we'll also follow the transfer market in the meantime. So we'll kind of pepper it with information, and the few information that we already have will be given today. We will jump in straight into that first episode of the postseason 21-22. But first, as usual, a bit of music for our podcast listeners. All right, the episode will start, I guess, on the dark note, so to say. Saint-Etienne is officially relegated in second division. Auxerre is officially promoted in first division, which is great for Auxerre to see a club with such history coming back into Ligue 1, and players like Gaëtan Charbonnier or Hein will be coming. The goalkeeper actually was pretty impressive as well all season, but mainly the star, I guess, of Auxerre will be Jean-Marc Furlan, the coach who's done so well in Ligue 2 this past couple of decades. 4 times he was able to bring a team back to Liga. He's done a bit less well in Liga, so we'll see what he's able to do if he stays with Auxerre after the summer. The first game finished 1-1 in Auxerre. The second game 1-1 in Saint-Etienne. In each game, it was the away team who scored first and the home team who came back. Of course, with two 1-1 draws, it went to extra time and eventually to the penalties. Auxerre won the penalties because Boudebouz saw his penalty shot stopped, the very first one of the series, and then after that, every one of the 9 penalties were scored. So Auxerre ended up winning 5-4. Unfortunately, what happened after that on the pitch was pretty terrible, I guess, pretty shameful, horrific. I don't think we should be afraid of the words. It almost kind of looked like it was civil war at the Stade Geoffroy Guichard, and some scary stuff. Some flares launched at the 2 benches. I mean, I know that that's where the police was, and probably that's why the flares were sent that way. But there's a lot of images circulated on social media about kids being almost reached by the flares, and just some scary stuff and things that don't have their room on our Ligue 1 stadiums, on any stadiums. I mean, it's been a pretty complicated week, I think, in France for stadium security and fans. We all know what happened in the Champions League final. All the stories about the Liverpool fans stranded outside, the fans from I don't know where trying to get in without paying their tickets. It's all been pretty bad. And then the fact that 3 days later, what am I saying? The day after, you have that happening in Saint-Etienne. Saint-Etienne fans who had already been warned twice, 3 times this season about potential, misbehavior, and it was expected that, I think there was this feeling that if Saint-Etienne does win the game and is maintained in Ligue 1, you would see the same scenes of like joyful pitch invasion that you're seeing in England or that you're seeing in other countries. But I think it's probably about time that the authorities understand and are aware that in France it's just not going to happen. It's just not going to be joyful pitch invasion in clubs that have such a large history and that have been struggling for so much in recent times. I mean, if we see what happened in Ajaccio a couple of weeks ago when they secured their Ligue 2 second place, which means that they were promoted, it's a game that they played against Toulouse. Toulouse was already going in Ligue, so the fact that they win and they validate their promotion, of course the fans can celebrate, because the fans of Toulouse that were in the stadium were also in a cheerful mood because they already had their promotion. So I think it's about reading the crowd and understanding what's going on before you allow, because I think in Saint-Etienne it was allowed that there was going to be a pitch invasion. Before you allow it, read the room. Like Saint-Etienne fans have been upset, angry, disappointed, rightfully so, for the past 4 or 5 years. You know that there's a 50-50 chance, especially when you get to the penalty shootout, there's a 50-50 chance that this is going to go pear-shaped. And I feel like they haven't anticipated this the right way. Now, for those who are watching the podcast on YouTube, I'm going to share the video of exactly what happened. If you don't know how things played out, and it's a pretty, I mean, to me, it's a pretty scary video. I'll show you what it looked like right now. It's on Sky News, so obviously you guys are welcome to go and have a look at it. But I don't even want to talk. I just want you guys to see exactly what happened. It's pretty terrible. So the video is from Sky News. You can go and check it out, and you can check it out with the sound. It's pretty scary. It's flares. It's little fireworks, and as you can see, it is Civil War stuff. What you see on that video, and that's just so disappointing. Like I said, I think there was kids in that stand behind where the police is. There was obviously the players, the staff, the coaches. It's just ruining it for a lot of people, and it's not what we want to see in football. Obviously, I think fans like these just shouldn't be in stadiums. They should be banned for life. I think that's a no-brainer. I also think that if you can't have a stadium without fences and nets to prevent this, just put the nets on, or put the fences on, put something on, put more police on. You know how dangerous this could get, and that this is a stadium that is bound to have issues that way. So it's just a very disappointing weekend as far as I'm concerned, seeing all those stuff happening in France. I mean, there's war 3 countries away, and then we're not able to behave for a football game. It's just a shame, and I hope that it's over. I hope that next year is going to start this different way. For Saint-Etienne, there's probably going to be a lot of sanctions taken, probably a few matches banned, potentially some points taken off before even they start their Ligue 2 campaign. But yeah, anyway, I had to talk about this first. I just thought it was one of the worst things that I've seen on a football pitch in a very long time, and I think that we were probably very close from actual drama. If the flare hit somebody in the face, if they started throwing fences, it took an hour or two for the police to bring everything back into control. I think things could have gone really wrong, and I don't understand why it needs to be that way when it's a football game. I understand the disappointment, I understand the anger, I understand that when you love your club, the passion is there, and that you seeing them going down is sad, but it's not like they were not expected to go down. So I feel like they came in with ill intentions. They wanted to create chaos. They did, and now they're the shame of the whole of Europe because of what they've done. And I think they deserve to be punished severely because it's just not what you do. Anyway, I'm kind of done talking about this. Sorry, it was really annoying. Okay, let's move on. Let's talk about things that are a bit more interesting. Let's go into I guess the first episode that I was saying of our post-Ligue 1 season. So Ligue 1 21-22, we've talked about it all year, of course. Paris Saint-Germain champions early. Marseille finished second. We know that Bordeaux and Metz and now Saint-Etienne have been relegated. I decided, we talked about it with Baptiste before, with Liam as well, to do, a bit of the best players of the season or things like this. And I decided to go a bit position by position. So today I'll be on my own, but I'll have guests back on soon. So position by position, we'll start with the goalkeeper. And so the way I did that basically is first, I kind of looked at my memories or what I remember from the season or the games that I've watched. And I thought to myself, who were the 4 best goalkeepers that I've seen this season? And very quickly you think Benitez, Raikkovic, potentially Matt Sales, maybe Paul Lopez, maybe Anthony Lopez, maybe Alexander Newbull from Monaco, who had a good end of season. Marco Bizot in Brest actually had a pretty solid season as well. I mean, at least had a lot of saves to make, right? He was kept busy. And so I was thinking, do stats back what I'm thinking, and who would I think is the best goalkeeper in Ligue 1? Spoiler alert, in my mind, Benitez is the best goalkeeper this season because he was so instrumental in Nice's good results and because he's always been a very good goalkeeper. And even when I was doing my team of the year for our friends of the Ligue 1 podcast, I said that Benitez was going to be the best keeper as far as I was concerned. So I decided to go and check if the stats were backing up my feeling. So I'll show you the stats that I was looking at. There it is. And so basically, it's basically the first thing you want to check out, right, is the clean sheets. Walter Benitez at 14 clean sheets, Matt Sales 13 clean sheets, Alexander Newbull 11 clean sheets, Pedrag Raikkovic 11 clean sheets as well, and then Paul Lopez and Alfred Gomis 10 clean sheets each. I feel like you can kind of put it down too for Alfred Gomis, Paul Lopez, Matt Sales, some great defenses, and Matt Sales maybe a little bit less, but Paul Lopez, for sure, the style of football that Marseille was playing, the possession-based, maybe he kind of reinvented the role of goalkeeper a little bit under Sampaoli by playing more of a sweeper role than a goalkeeper role, but eventually he also lost in position because he made a few mistakes. So that's why he was not in my top 4. And looking at, I guess, the overall stats, I decided that Benitez, Sales, Newbull and Raikkovic were probably the 4 best goalkeepers that we've seen this season. So I'll start in Strasbourg. I'll start with Matt Sales, who, as you can see in some of those statistics, isn't, at least on paper, one of the best goalkeepers in France. I mean, he's only appearing in the top 9, in the top 10 in the saves. He made 86 saves this season, and he is, as far as I'm concerned, still a great goalkeeper. I think he's got awesome reflexes. I think for a keeper, after a long injury, to come back to the level that he came back to is impressive. And I think it was instrumental for Strasbourg to get where they wanted to get. And, a lot has been said about Julien Stéphan and what he's done at Strasbourg. I think the way he developed the defense to be a bit more impermeable, to be a bit more solid, a bit more dense with the likes of Alexander Chiku and Perrin, of course, and Niamsi. He's really developed his team into, I guess, a strong defensive unit, both by their defensive action and also by their ability to keep possession and to allow as little ball for their opponents as possible. And so I think Matt Sales, in more than a few times, has really helped Strasbourg keeping those results. Though when the games are close one, if you have a goalkeeper that can give you 1 or 2 important saves, it's all the difference right at the end. And Matt Sales is somehow a little bit underrated, but I think in Strasbourg he's really done some good job. I mean, 13 clean sheets, it's a third of the games of the season that he finished without conceding, and I think it's that in itself is a pretty important stats. I do think that a keeper like Matt Sales, if he was given a less good defense, because let's not take anything away from the Strasbourg defense. They were awesome all year. I think he's the kind of goalkeeper that just has so many saves in him. He's good in the air. He's good 1v1. He's very good at making himself large, and he's pretty good on his line as well. So that was one of my with my four choices. The other choice that I had in mind, of course, was Pedrag Raikkovic, the goalkeeper from Reims. I mean, he's been one of the best goalkeeper in Ligue 1 for the past 2-3 seasons. Of course, the narrative is about his penalty kick save average. He's been awesome in penalty kicks. He very famously saved two. I think he was 6 in a row last year, the year before. So that's at first how he got his race to fame. But for a team who plays mid bottom of the table like Reims, to be able to rack up 11 clean sheets is pretty impressive. And he's got a solid defense as well. There's Woodfest, there's Abdelhamid in front of him. Sometimes it's Munetsi as well that plays in that position. But I think a lot is about Raikkovic. I think he's got that factor, that X factor that goalkeeper have. He reminds me sometimes of Fabien Barthez, maybe because of the haircut, maybe because of the way he seems that he's a bit crazy in the way he goalkeeps. I mean, every single goalkeeper has to have a bit of that, I think, in them to be in that position. But he's a real leader. He's really helping his team in every aspects of the game. He's been there for a while now. The defense has developed. I think you can say that the defenses can trust his goalkeeper, so they can really play to the maximum of their ability. And I wouldn't be surprised if that's the season he gets a move, because eventually, people are seeing him for who he is, which is one of the greats of Ligue 1, and I wouldn't be surprised if he gets a move and if he really becomes, I guess, better and better because he's been so strong. Of course, he's Serbian and he's playing with the national team of Serbia most of the times, Raikovic, and I think he's one of those players that we'll probably hear about in a year or two in a bigger club than Reims. Kudos to what he's done at Reims, though, for all the service that is given this small-ish team. It's awesome that he was able to get those great results. The next one that we're looking at is Alexander Newbull, and Alexander Newbull, I think I even labeled him, I guess, half a failure when I first started talking about him when he had just arrived in Ligue 1, and I did that just because I just really think that he wasn't worth all the hype, basically. Monaco got a keeper saying that he was the goalkeeper who was supposed to be the next Manuel Neuer. He's on loan for a couple of seasons. If you're not aware, just as a reminder, he's done one season, he's got another season on loan, and then he should go back to Bayern Munich. So basically, this was his shot at becoming, his own self, and at developing and at taking his rightful place as the heir of Manuel Neuer, both with Bayern Munich and with the Mannschaft, the German national team. And when he first started, there was a bit of disappointment. There was some very questionable positioning on the ball, questionable hands, weird way of closing his angles. I mean, he had the famous Neuer split where he was putting his legs both sides, but just complicated, I think, complicated himself in the way he was positioning himself sometimes, and we've seen some mistakes that you don't expect from a goalkeeper of this reputation and supposedly of this talent. He settled. He let the dust settle as well. The change of coach maybe helps for the confidence. He slowly but surely got into his own rhythm, and then obviously is a big part of that late rush by Monaco. I think it's 10 games undefeated, 9 wins in a row. That ended, unfortunately for them, at the very last game of the season, where they weren't able to win against Lens, which means that they're now third and going to play the playoff in Champions League. But in that last round, he was impressive, and I think we've started to see what Alexander Newbull can be, or who he is now, and who he can become as a goalkeeper. He's reassuring for his defense. He's got, all of a sudden, it looks like a different goalkeeper with a great sense of anticipation, solid on his line, solid in the air. Something that he probably learned from Manuel Neuer is the sweeper-keeper role. And at first, we didn't see that at all. And now, slowly but surely, he was a bit better ball to feet too. So a very, very positive, very great end of season for the German goalkeeper. under Philippe Clement. And there's one stat that I think is very interesting. It's one of those new stats that has been developed, I think, this year or the past year, and is really looked at for to talk about the I guess the performances of goalkeeper, is that PSXG stat. So PSXG means post-shot expected goals. So basically, you look at quickly, expected goals are the I guess the percentage of goals that can be scored depending on where they're scored from. So if you have 3 clear chances from like 6 yards out without any goalkeeper, there's a chance that your expected goal are close to 3, and then it depends how many you score. Those expected goals are always taken into consideration pre-shot. So wherever you are on the pitch, if you shoot from here, there's an expected goal ratio coming out, looking at all the history of the shot taking from there, and The post-shot expected goal, I'm getting to my point, only takes expected goal after the shot has been taken and when the shot is on target, because that's the best way to see how many saves a goalkeeper actually makes. So post-shot expected goals is basically the shots that are already on target, and their expected goal, I guess, mark is obviously going to be a bit higher because they are on target. So a stat that's very interesting for a goalkeeper is looking at their post-shot expected goals and removing the goals that are conceded of that. And so for Alexander Newbull, that was a bit of a long-winded one to tell you that. For Alexander Newbull, the post-shot expected goals minus goal conceded is 6.5 as a positive. So which means that he was expected to score 6.5 more goals than what he has this season, showing that he had a lot of saves to make that were supposed to become goals instead of being saved by Newbull. And I think it's the kind of stat that made me go back to some of the games, maybe watch some of the last games, and see how important he actually was and see the amount of saves that he actually made. And I think that's a brilliant stat, of course, to be able to judge what a keeper is doing. But I also think if you just watch Alexander Newbull at the beginning of the season, where he looked like he wasn't in his element and there was no confidence, and if you look at him at the end of the season, where all of a sudden he's the boss of that defense, and he's really here to help his team, you can see the difference, and you can see why it looks like it's only the beginning for the German goalkeeper, who's finally living up to his hype, finally seeing how much he can bring to a team like Monaco, and what better ways to showcase that than to find himself in Champions League next season, and hopefully helping Monaco getting through the preliminary rounds to be able to qualify for the Champions League group. It'd be great to have 3 teams in Champions League this season. The last goalkeeper, and the one that I think was the best goalkeeper of the season, is of course Walter Benitez. Walter Benitez, the Nice goalkeeper, 14 clean sheets. I think it's 107 saves all season. So just about 3 saves a game. Sorry, just under that. But also, the ability to concede less than a goal per game, 77% save in his game as well, and that PSXJ minus goal against that I was talking about is plus 4.8. So also a goalkeeper that had a lot of shots on target directed at him, and that was able to make quite a few saves. We're talking about a team that's coached. I'm gonna remove that. We're talking about a team that's coached by Christophe Galtier. We're talking about a team that will be built on their defensive ability. We know how Christophe Galtier builds his team. We know where they start. We know where they end. We know that it's about being solid defensively and then being able to exploit in counter-attack most of the time. I mean, even Christophe Galtier said I think it was the last game's post conference, that he thought this season he was a bit conservative and that he just wanted to ensure that his back four was in a good shape before he was starting to develop offensively. I clearly think he's done that. But then Walter Benitez was such a big, important, crucial even asset in the squad. He had a good defense in front of him, Dance, Melvin Barr, or sometimes it was Amavi who played in that position. I think they really struggle to find the right players and they really struggled to stop the offense. And so, although you can say that Downs is so important defensively despite his age, and that Jean-Claire Todibo is developing into a really solid defender, I think there was so many loose balls in the Nice defense. Halfway through the season, it looked like they were very tired. Nice, the whole squad. And so there were so many opportunities for other teams to actually go and take advantage of it. And I think if it wasn't for Walter Benitez, Nice definitely was never in the contention for a Champions League spot, let alone a direct Champions League spot that they missed like 3 games before the end. Walter Benitez has been so good that as soon as he finally got his French passport and his French nationality, which happened 3-4 months back, everybody was saying that maybe he's going to be Hugo Lloris is number 2 or Hugo Lloris is number 3 when it comes to World Cup. I don't think we're there yet, mainly because there's already a lot of talents in that position in France. But I was impressed with with Nice. It's been 2-3 seasons that he's been good, but last year it just wasn't as good as it'd been the season before, which was a bit disappointing and which led to a lot of rumors about a guy like Steve Mandanda potentially going to Nice. But then he developed. I mean, Nice even recruited Marcin Bulka from Paris as potentially a number 2 who could become a number 1, maybe to put pressure on Benitez. And Bulka had a very good Coupe de France season where he brought his team to the final and he played the final. But Benitez 100% did an awesome job, in the league. Really showing how great he is. He's great on his line. He may be a little bit less good in the air on like aerial crosses and corners, but he's so solid on his line that sometimes it doesn't matter. He's solid with his ball to feet as well. He's a modern goalkeeper, as you expect from other goalkeeper. And I think they with him and with Jean-Claire Todibo, I don't know about Dante next year because he's getting older, but they really have a solid base to build upon. And I do think that in a season where the goalkeepers weren't the highlight in France. Every season we have 1 or 2 goalkeepers that were like, oh my God, he's so good, he's going to go to a big club or whatever. This season we didn't really have this. I mean, of course, there's the story about Alban Lafont always because he's one of the best young goalkeepers in the world, but I don't think he's done that well at Nantes. And to be honest, he's not the kind of goalkeeper that kind of like Edouard Mendy I see going to a big club and be a starter straight away. But I think Walter Benitez in that mist of keepers that were just so. I really think that he showed his best face, and I think he is probably single-handedly the reason why Nice was able to be where they are at the end of the season, because he made so many crucial saves to keep his team afloat. So that's my top 4 basically of goalkeepers in Ligue 1: Walter Benitez, Alexander Newbull, Pedrag Raikkovic, and Matt Sells. Tell me if you agree, if you disagree. Of course, there's a lot of keepers that could have been mentioned. Keylor Navas. I don't think Donnarumma is better than Navas, but Keylor Navas could be mentioned. Of course, Alfred Gomis with Rennes, Alban Lafont with Nantes. Anthony Lopez with Lyon. I think Lyon can thank Anthony Lopez because in some games when Lyon was really struggling, Anthony Lopez probably held them up high. I talked about Paul Lopez, of course, for Marseille. You kind of change what the role was. But I think, again, like I said, it was not a season where we had 2-3 superstar goalkeeper emerging out of Ligue 1. But in that season, we've still seen some interesting thing. And I think more importantly, maybe we're seeing goalkeepers that next year might really explode. And I'm talking about Alexander Newbull. In that sense, you hope that Walter Benitez is going to keep his good run of forms. Who knows where Pedrag Raikkovic will go? He's going to be one of those goalkeepers that teams are going to try to buy. No doubt Matt Sells is going to stay at Strasbourg, the Belgian goalkeeper. He's comfortable there in the northeast of France. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens onto the transfer market, which right now, as far as goalkeepers go, is basically not a lot. Talking about the transfer market, I guess a couple of information that have trickled this week. I mean, we had talked, of course, about Camara going to Aston Villa on a free transfer. There's also Tchouaméni, who's most likely leaving Monaco. The latest was that he was going to go to Real Madrid, but he's also in the target of a team like Paris Saint-Germain or even Liverpool. Metz, Saint-Etienne, Bordeaux, you're wondering how many players they're going to lose. Of course, Thomas Delaney for Metz has already signed for Reims. I think they need to. There's a few players in there that need to leave because in Ligue 2 you can't really pay their wages, and B will do whatever they can to come back into Ligue 1. In Saint-Etienne, I think there's like 9 or 10 or 11 players out of contract. Kolo Zeshak, I think Kazri, maybe Boudebouz. There's a few players that are at the end of their contract, so I wouldn't be surprised to see them go. Bordeaux and Metz, it might be a bit of a different story. But yeah, and then as far as the rumors go, you'll hear, as usual, 305,000 rumors about Paris Saint-Germain and who they want to bring in, and same about Marseille. It was Veretout yesterday. The day before it was Etienne Capoue from Villarreal. There's always going to be a lot of noise about them. We'll only talk about the transfer that do happen, and we'll try and keep those episodes short during the break, just so that you don't get bored too much. So that's the end of episode 1 of the Ligue 1 post-season 21-22. Sorry about the dark and green start with what happened in Saint-Etienne, but I think it was worth mentioning it. And I hope you enjoy my goalkeeper ranks. Next time we'll talk about the best defenders in Ligue 1. Feel free to let me know what your thought is. Thank you. Bye-bye.